The house was quiet, a neighborhood like any other, calm, undisturbed, where the most pressing concern on any given night was whether the streetlights would flicker before bedtime. Inside, a group of teenagers laughed, whispered, and exchanged secrets, their voices blending with the hum of a television left on in the background. Phones buzzed, snacks were passed around, and the night stretched ahead of them, ordinary in every way, or so it seemed. But behind closed doors, something was waiting. It was not a sudden explosion of chaos, not the kind of terror that arrives with warning sirens or flashing lights. It was slower, quieter, a presence lurking just beneath the surface, unseen but inevitable. A moment in time so fragile, so delicate, that no one inside that house could have known they were teetering on the edge of something they could never take back. By morning, what was supposed to be a night of harmless fun would turn into a crime scene. Lives would be changed forever. And for those who made it out, the memories of that night would never fade. Not in the way childhood sleepovers are meant to be remembered, but in a way that would follow them, haunt them, shape them. This is the story of the sleepover that ended in blood. To understand what happened that night, we must first understand who was there. It began with an invitation, a simple request sent over text messages and casual conversations in the school hallways. A group of friends, each with their own secrets, their own struggles, their own reasons for saying yes. At the center of it all was Ashley, a teenager, with a bright smile and a future that seemed just within reach. To those who knew Ashley, they were more than just another face in the crowd. They were kind, outgoing, maybe even a little too trusting. And then there were the others, the ones who walked into that house with no idea that they would be walking out changed forever. The ones who, in the days and weeks that followed, would be forced to recount the details over and over again, questioning every moment, every decision, every small choice that led them there. As the invitations were sent and plans were made, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But that night, something entered that house alongside them, something unseen, something waiting. The night of the sleepover. The night started like any other. Parents exchanged goodbyes, cars pulled away from the driveway, and inside the house, the evening unfolded with the usual mix of excitement and routine. There was pizza, music, inside jokes, a night that, for all intents and purposes, felt safe, familiar. But what no one knew was that time was running out. Somewhere between the laughter and the moment the front door locked for the night, something shifted. A word spoken in the wrong tone, a glance that lingered too long, a message sent that should never have been read. Something had been set in motion, and once it started, there was no stopping it. The last recorded messages from that night tell a story in fragments. Text messages left on read, calls that went unanswered. The kind of digital breadcrumbs that, in hindsight, form a path straight to the moment everything changed. By the time the first call to 911 was made, it was already too late. Inside the house, the aftermath told a story of struggle, of fear, of something no one expected but could never forget. Blood stained the carpet. Furniture lay overturned. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the distant wail of approaching sirens. The responders arrived in minutes, but minutes were not enough to change what had already happened. What they saw inside that house would be seared into their minds forever. Surviving that night did not mean escaping it. For those who made it out, the memories took root in ways they never expected. Flashbacks in the dead of night, the feeling of being watched when alone, sounds that brought them straight back to that house. Therapists described their trauma as something woven into them, something that could never be fully unraveled. Parents watched as their once carefree children became shadows of themselves, unable to sleep, unable to speak of what they had seen. For some, the guilt was unbearable. Survivors questioned why they had lived while others had not. What could they have done differently? The weight of that question followed them, a silent burden they would carry for years. The ones who spoke out painted a picture of a night that felt ordinary until the moment it wasn't. Some remembered the laughter before the silence. Others recalled the sheer panic, the rush to escape, the desperate calls for help. A neighbor reported hearing something, muffled screams, a crash, but dismissed it as teenage antics. A first responder, holding back tears, described walking into the house and knowing instantly that what had happened there was beyond anything they had prepared for. One survivor, voice trembling, recalled the moment they realized someone in the house wasn't breathing. It didn't feel real, they said. It still doesn't.